Howdy everyone, welcome to the live stream. Looking forward to chatting with you all today, and there's some cool stuff that we got coming up today, so looking forward to getting into that. Here is what's going on. Actually, first of all, just first things first, my name is Jeff Bartsch, and this is Story Greenlight, where we are all about helping content creators like you use powerful storytelling and creative video editing techniques so that you can connect with your audience, turn up the impact of your message, and ultimately change people's lives. That is the reason that we're here, and that's what we're all about. So if you are new, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button and hitting the bell so you don't miss a single video or a live stream, and you'll get notifications when things like this happen, so we can all keep learning and growing together. Here is what is going on today. Here is what's going on. There are a lot of video editing programs that say that they are the best. But the question is, which one is the right for you as an online creator and why? And then, of course, there's the whole FOMO thing. There's the fear of missing out. It's like, well, what? Like, I feel like I'm doing okay. It's like stuff is working okay. But what if I'm not? What if the program that I'm using isn't everything that would actually be of help to me? Am I missing out on something? So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to be talking about all the different editing platforms that are available from the very, very beginning levels to the super, super advanced levels. Guaranteed you will find a place, the perfect space for you somewhere in the middle. Or maybe even at the extreme. That's up to you. We will see what happens. So that is what's going on. And actually, I will just clarify why this matters. If you don't have the right tools for your job, you're going to miss out on making your content everything that you can be. And worse, you can slow down, you can get stuck, and the last thing you want is to be in a position where your tools are dictating things instead of what's up here and the stories that you want to tell. So that's why it's important to know what tools you're using in terms of your software and how you know that you're using the right one for you. I'm just going to double check. Let's see, double check, make sure everything's good with picture and sound. Hey, Chris, hello. Hashtag no small creator love going on. Here we are. Howdy, Lucas. Howdy, Lewis. Good to see you, man. You are consistent, good sir. Hi, Dennis. Hi, howdy, Guiding Autism. I'm tripling over my words today. It's good to see you, Guiding Autism. Hey, Lindsay. Howdy, howdy, howdy. So, good. Glad to see folks are here and glad to see the picture and sound is working, because if picture and sound don't work, that's kind of a problem. All right. So, if you are by chance new, and we've not met yet, my name is Jeff Bartsch, and I've built my career editing television in Hollywood. I've helped with literally thousands of hours of television, and I've worked with some of the largest media outlets on the face of the planet, and I absolutely love telling stories, and I love helping people like you tell the stories that you care about the most. That is what I'm all about. I cannot imagine, like, editing is my day job. I edit full-time here in Los Angeles, and I cannot imagine a better day job other than the opportunity to do things like this full-time, which is my ultimate goal. That's what I'm working for. So spread the love and spread the word, and let's make that happen for all of us. So, going to get to my notes here, and the thing is that I want to do, I want to know from you, what do you use right now for video editing? What program do you use? Are you happy with it? And what frustrates you about it? Now, while you're thinking about that, while you're typing in your comments, I will tell you, just as a point of reference, I use and have used for my entire career, I use a program called Avid Media Composer. Now, I know if you've been doing video editing or photography for a while, or you went to film school, there's a chance you might have learned Avid. And but the thing is, if you don't do feature film editing, or high-end commercial work or broadcast television, chances are you may not even have heard of Avid, of Media Composer, before. We usually just refer to it as Avid for short. So, as a point of reference, I'm here in my edit bay here, and this is the typical setup for pretty much every professional gig I've ever had. Give you the little nickel tour here. Down here, we legitimately, like this cheese grater Mac Pro, or I think it might even be a PowerPC. I don't remember exactly, but we've been using these cheese grater Mac towers for years now. They still are cranking along. They are all souped up, and they get the job done. Now, the thing with Avid is the difference between like super high-end editing systems and entry-level editing systems often comes down to the hardware that comes along with the software. And Avid has always had, where are you? They've always had breakout boxes. They've had external hardware. So I don't know how well you can see this. It says Avid, and this is the Nitrous DX box here. And that has a whole bunch of extra, processing power, and just really, it just does everything that high-end broadcast stuff needs. And then you have your fancy little, hey, don't want to mess up stuff on my project here. You have your fancy little Avid keyboard here. See, it says Avid. It's very fancy. And there's that. And you usually also have some audio monitors and a mixing board. And this, you are a select crowd who could actually get this. So I drink a lot of water during the day just because it forces me to get up out of my chair and go to the bathroom and take bathroom breaks. I really like sparkling water. So this, I'd never heard of this stuff before, but this is Talking Rain sparkling water. And so one of the producers at the show that I'm working with, she and her cohort say, yeah, it's like they're big fans of Prince. So every time they walk into my bay, they say, "Talking rain, and that cracks them up every time. But for those of us who are familiar with the YouTube world and with Tay Zonde and the massive hit that he had, every time I walk into the bay and I see this stack, I think, "Talking rain, talking rain," and of course, that goes on the loop in my head forever. Anyway, that's a little bit of the nickel tour of this bay that I'm using. We'll talk more about what Avid is, and we'll just not as a. Yeah, we'll get into that more later. But now let's check in with your comments. Let's see what we got. All right. So Guiding Autism says I am using Filmora. Very cool. I know a number of folks. Who do that. Very cool. Nighthawk Gliders. Howdy. Good to see you. Welcome. Chris Floyd uses Premiere. Yes. Fair enough. Lewis is using Final Cut. I still have a lot to learn. You know what? Let me tell you. Let me tell you. I constantly, like, I've been cutting full time. Let's see. It's 2018 right now. So I've been cutting for 16, 17 years, depending on how you make the time for when I made the switch. I constantly learn new things, especially like anytime I walk into someone else's editing suite and like they're just pushing buttons. I'm like, hey, how did you do that? And like, I constantly learn new things, and it's especially the case because I actually only stepped up to learn Premiere this past fall for a job that I was doing. And so I am still constantly learning new tricks and keystrokes and workflow things on Premiere. I end up sharing some of those with you on the YouTube channel here, But please believe, I'm constantly learning. So if you're feeling like you still have a lot to learn, join the club. It's all good. Dennis, Premiere, Creative Cloud, yes. High-Tech Tube, High-Tech YouTube, Vegas Pro, yes. I use it because I know it and it was free. Absolutely, Vegas is a solid option. Lindsay says, I'm currently using iMovie because that's what I have access to for now. The frustrating part is my MacBook is super bogged down, so it's slow. That is absolutely frustrating. I hear you there, Lindsay. And one of the things, just as a point of reference, Macs don't like to have hard drives that are completely full. That could potentially be one of the reasons why your Mac is running slow. So if your hard drive, either like assuming that you're working with your internal hard drive on this stuff, if it's like over like 95% full, see if you can figure out a way to like get another drive and offload some of the stuff and open up some operating space that might help you with your Mac. Let's see, Lee Everett. Hey guys, I'm using Premiere but only just started to use it, upgraded from Filmora, which is so easy to use compared to any Premiere. Anyone else feel the same? And Michelle at Ride On Cycling, what's up Michelle, good to see you, says, I'm in the same boat. Getting there though, everyone would say it would be a huge learning curve. Premiere does have a learning curve if it's the first program like it that you've used. But yeah, it is very much worth it. It is absolutely worth it. And I will talk more about how to shorten that learning curve later on. Nighthawk Gliders has a Mac Mini, so iMovie came with it, gets the job done. Yep, iMovie is solid. Zuzix, are editors expected to do color grading? The answer is yes, asterisk. That depends. It depends on what your context is, Zuzix. Like for me, on my gigs here, we always, like the shows that I edit, always take the cut out of house to a finishing house. We export the show to a color correction suite, and we get the audio mix. And so they take the color correction pass there. But basically, that's the workflow for broadcast television. For most broadcast television, you have a dedicated finishing editor who does the color correction and final formatting of things. But as soon as you step outside that world, if you're doing personal projects or projects for clients, it is quite likely that they will want you to do everything. They will want you to edit. They will want you to build graphics. They will want you to do the color correction and a fancy color grade and do the mix. And back in the day, they still wanted you to do the DVD authoring, which there's less of that going on these days. But, you know, it depends, which is why it's important. It's important to have some diversity and to know what you're doing. Let's see. Lee Everett says, it certainly is a huge learning curve. I assume that's what you mean. Guiding Autism, I also have DaVinci, but it's complicated. Ooh, look at you, Guiding Autism. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. We'll be talking about DaVinci Resolve later on. Peter, hammer is a hammer. Yes, it is. 100%. You've been in these conversations before, haven't you, Matt? The quality of hammer you need depends on the way you work, how much you work, and experience you are. Yes. Film is simple. You use Avid. Right on. Very cool. Composers, big bucks, ching ching. I used to use Hit Film. Now I use DaVinci Resolve. Premiere is always unstable. Lots of pulled out hairs on that program, says Big G Media. I hear you. Peter says, hey, Michelle. What's up, everyone? 4K proxy is awesome on DaVinci, especially on a laptop, says Big G Media. Yep. Lindsay says, my hard drive is wicked full. I'm slowly but surely whittling down my internal hard drive and moving stuff to my external hard drive. Yes. So back to previous comment, yes, if your drives are full, that will almost always slow things down. Lewis, want to know what your biggest struggle as an editor and how to get over it and learn about that obstacle. We will get to that. Hold tight, Lewis. And Javier. Howdy, Javier. Good to see you, man. Javier uses Premiere. Cool. So that gets us kind of a point of reference, for the room here as to what people use, and there really is a diversity in the tools. And I will say, that Peter basically, Peter hit the nail on the head. Ha! See what I did there? What these pieces of software are, they are tools. They're like a hammer or a nail, and it's all about what you want to accomplish and with what level of detail or finesse, if you will. But ultimately, the stuff that is the editing software, it is a tool. It is not the thing. The main thing is, what is your story? What is your content? What are you communicating? What do you want your audience to know, do, or feel when they're done experiencing your piece? Who is your audience? What do they want? What do they expect? What do they not expect? How can you give that to them? All these things that I talk about here. And if by some chance, if you're new and you haven't gotten a copy of this, these questions are the questions that I ask myself all the time. And I've been developing this list over the last damn near 2 decades here of editing work, if you count the stuff that I did in college. And it's the big questions that help you shift your mindset to where you can actually get the right answers that really make the biggest difference in your content. So if you haven't gotten a copy of this, there is a link in the description below that you should hit and get a checklist. There are some people who have literally taken this checklist right here and hung it up on their wall. And you could do the same. It's a good thing. So that is the initial point of reference. These are all tools. Now, I will say there is something very, very cool that I'm looking forward to telling you guys about. I'll start right here. There is a new course, an online training course that I did based around this. It's an online course about me breaking down every single question and really digging into what that stuff means and how to apply that, how to help you apply that to your content. Because this kind of stuff, this is not about me telling you what to do. This is all about me helping you ask the questions that will get you the right answers to know how you can best move forward yourself, because that's where the answers need to come from anyway. So I am just now have released this training to people, and I will tell you how you can get a copy of that for free later on in the stream here. So let's dig in here. Let's talk about what is the best editing program and why. And you know, am I working with the right one? Am I missing out on something? And so let's do that. Now, in order to do this, humor me with a very brief history lesson. But here's the twist. We're not going to start at the very beginning. We're not going to start at the very beginning. We're going to start at the end, and we're going to work backwards, because there is something important that I want you to bear in mind about all this stuff. So, when you have what we have here is these are four editing platforms here, and what they are software. They are the current state of things. They are electronic software that runs on any computer that you decide to use it with. Now, when you take an evolutionary step backwards, the step that you had before that was electronic hardware. Now, this is the stuff that used to be like renting a room like this to do like high-end, full-on broadcast stuff. Those renting rooms like that used to cost like between $500 to $1,000 per hour. That's how expensive that equipment was. It took a team of engineers and an entire machine room for all the gear to keep it running and to do everything that needed to happen. And it's no wonder why it was so exclusive. Like, it was not like all the people like you and me who can create content with this stuff here, that was not available with this stuff because everything was hardware based and it was ridiculously expensive. Now, taking one step backwards beyond that, you go back before electronic hardware and you have mechanical hardware. This here is a funky machine called a moviola. And what it is, you have, like, you see those reels, you see the picture screens. Those are the heads where they would spool film, and then the heads on the left, the two heads on the left, are where they would spool up sound, magnetic sound film. And they would, that thing had pedals. You'd step on the pedals. The thing sounds like a sewing machine, and that's how you spool through all your dailies, and you make the decisions on, like, okay, we're going to make these cut points here, and you hand this stuff off to your assistant editors who actually make the physical splices and tapes the pieces of film together. And that's how feature films were edited for decades and decades and decades and decades. Now, going back one more step beyond, like, before that, it was not just mechanical. It was not just mechanical equipment. It was straight up tools that were cranked by hand. Now, what this is here, this is a film editing workbench. And you can see in the middle there, that is a canvas bag that when you took the little rolls of film from up on top, you would spool those up on the reels on either side, and you just let those strips of film hang down into the canvas bag. They call them canvas bins. So there's your little history lesson. Well, one of the history lessons here was a random reference. When you have an editing piece of editing software called something a bin, what they're talking about originally was a canvas bag that held strips of film during the editing process. Now, the thing that I want you to know about all this stuff, this, and this all do the same thing. It is all the same. It just happens that the stuff at the end has more bells and whistles attached to it. But really, at the end of the day, what we're wanting to do with editing and constructing stories can be done and was done for decades on this. You have your source material, you make the choices of what you want to put together, you join them together, boom, that is your edited piece. So whenever someone tries to tell you, well, this piece of software is crap, it's like, oh, it doesn't do what it needs to do. It's like, well, just bear in mind that at the end of the day, the only thing that really, really matters is something that can be done on this with a set of scissors and tape and film strip. But, you know, obviously the technology has progressed far beyond that. So be encouraged. Every piece of software that we're going to be talking about can get the job done. So basically, if you're wondering whether you're missing out, at the very basic foundational level, the answer is no. Let's check in with your comments. Let's see. Hammer. Chris Floyd, it's a hammer. Nail on the head, Jeff's got jokes. Ha, ha, ha. Yes, and Javier, yes, Javier is the one who took the download of that and put the list up on the wall. And I will say, well, yes, Lindsay, sign up for your course testing. Very pumped to get into it this coming weekend. Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Lewis helps so much. Thank you. I can't wait. Very cool. I love editing, says Lewis, but because I'm new, it takes me an average of 6 hours to get a 2 to 3 minute video. That's the only frustrating thing. I would love to edit more, but I have to make it a priority. Okay, let me just say here, the amount of time spent on editing it is one of the longest stretches of time, percentage-wise, that you will do when you put together a piece. There's a reason why a lot of YouTubers put together content that's them sitting in front of a camera and just talking and just saying, hey, here's what I have to say, here's my personality, blah, 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 blah. Because that takes the least amount of time to edit. When you start going out, you want to cut a vlog. Vlogs do not cut themselves, especially when you want to do it, especially if you're looking at people like Peter McKinnon or the Casey Neistats of the world. Super stylized, super edgy, and that stuff takes a lot of work to edit. So the fact, frankly, Lewis, the fact that you're doing a 2 to 3 minute video in 6 hours, that sounds normal to me. If you're doing a vlog style thing and you're still getting up to speed, you're totally where you need to be, man. I mean, I will say, let me see if I still have this up in Excel. I have a spreadsheet here. Timings. I've gotten into a groove here in terms of content creation for Story Greenlight. I do not have the discretionary time personally to do something like a fully produced, educational and entertaining, highly produced piece every week. That's not something that I've figured out how to do yet. So that's why I alternate produced pieces with these live streams, because it takes me, let's see, the last live stream I did, it took me a total of 7 hours to prep. I spent 2 3/4 hours writing it, 1 hour shooting it, doing the live thing here. Prep, like I say, I edited the live stream because of prepping the elements for it for 3 hours, and I spent half an hour doing the YouTube work on it. Now, I will say, the last produced video that I did, the hit by a truck rule, that I'll just tell you, I spent a total of 20 hours on that. I spent 1 hour writing it, 4 hours shooting it, and that right there actually, that right there with the shooting, that's my learning curve, because I've spent my whole career doing this stuff. Like, I can do that, I'm fine. But the thing that I'm learning is the stuff that I'm wanting to improve on personally is the shooting. So I took 4 hours to shoot that. I spent 14 hours editing that. That is what I did on that for a total of 20 hours. So I spent 2.5 hours per finished minute on that piece. It's 7 minutes and 46 seconds long. So, just saying, Lewis, you are doing 6 hours of editing on a 3-minute piece. You're doing 2 hours of editing per finished minute. That's basically what it takes me to do on my stuff. So, point of reference. That's just, I would like to get those times down. I would like to, that kind of thing is not sustainable. But really, that's where I am. And I've been doing a lot of editing. So don't feel bad, Lewis. You're right there. Let's see. Ralph says, oh, it's live. No wonder I can't find the closed caption button. Yep, sorry, man. Let's check in. Let's catch up on some of your questions here. Lindsay. Oh, let's see. Must say I don't feel fear of missing out about editing software because I'm doing lots of talking head videos on iMovie serves me well. That is absolutely that's absolutely the best attitude right there, Lindsay. If it does what you need it to do, then that is the right solution. Sweet Moviola, said Peter. Yeah, I've never actually cut on a Moviola. I did a little bit of cutting on a flatbed in college, but I don't feel like I do. I have zero feelings of having missed out on physically cutting film. Ugh, no, thank you. Lindsay says, my tiny humans are requiring my undivided attention. That I get. I will catch you later, Lindsay. Javier says, wasn't slow-mo achieved by overcranking the reel? Yes. And what Javier is referring to is original film cameras. Original film cameras were actually, they were a box with a lens on the front, you know, and there was a crank. There was literally a crank on the side, which the camera operator would crank by hand. And so when you were doing that and you wanted to capture more information than real time, you start cranking faster and you spin more film through the camera, and that's what's called overcranking. And so like today, when people talk about shooting B-roll sequences at high speed or at slow motion, like at 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second, or if you talk with the slow-mo guys, they're shooting on phantom cameras at 5,000 frames per second. That is an example of overcranking, which goes back to like that. Go away, Excel. Okay. Lewis, I just want to tell stories. Lewis, wow, that's crazy. Maybe if you could give an insight on behind the scenes of editing, because I thought I was just not very good at editing. That's why I was discouraged. Now I know what it really takes. You know what? I mean, the fact of the matter is, I heard Roberto Blake talking about how he specifically spends only 30 minutes editing any of his videos. At the most 30 minutes. And he's just like, oh, I hate having to do more than that. I'm like, at the first time I heard that, I'm just like, dude. I mean, clearly, Roberto Blake has put out, if you're not familiar with Roberto Blake, he's a teacher and educator on how to help grow your YouTube channels. He has put out a crazy volume of content. And so, you know, he's gotten into a system that works for him. The thing is, he also does a lot of talking heads, and if he's just like slamming things out, if he's doing like 1 or 2 takes, and he's just like, okay, here's exactly what I need to shoot. Here I shoot it, and here's it is in the camera. Toss it in a timeline, and go chop, 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 chop. It's like, well, hey, you can get a video done with mostly talking head stuff, and get some pre-packaged elements that you have on the side. Bring those in, drop them in, and you've spent 30 minutes editing a video. Hit the upload and on to the next one. That is not where I am personally. I would love to get to the place where I can do a fully produced piece that runs almost 8 minutes long, and I don't require 20 hours of my own time in that. But frankly, that is a point of, you know, that's coming from my perspective, where I've been hired at times to spend an entire week cutting 90 seconds of finished television. So there's the more extreme example of things. Like we'll spend 50 hours. How about spending 50 hours just editing 90 seconds? So there's that. So in comparison, I'm getting that ratio down. Let's see. Nikolska 90s, thanks for sharing really great stuff. Greetings from Greece. Howdy. I go to lunch. Random thing, Nikoska. I go to lunch at a Greek restaurant called Rodini Park. It's just down the street from where I'm editing, and I get Greek salad almost every day. Random thought. Oh, and one of the coolest moments for us, for my wife and I, we actually did our honeymoon in Santorini. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful island. And then we ended up hanging out in Athens too. Big fan of Greece. Peter, wish I could stay longer, but it's late here in Poland. I have an edit to finish tomorrow. Do your thing. Happy editing. Right on. 30 hours, Dafter Things says, 30 hours over 2 weeks to produce a 2-minute stop motion versus a 6-hour live stream playing Fortnite. Not a good deal for non-game channels. Dafter Things, is that what you're doing in terms of stop motion stuff? Because just straight up, if you're doing stop motion, that is work intensive. There is no way around that. So, I mean, if that's what you're wanting to do, and if that's what you're good at, you have to figure out a way to say, okay, how can I create content in a way that's consistent, in light of the fact that it takes a long time to do that. So I'd be curious to know, Dafter Things, if that's what you're talking about, if that's what you're working on with stop motion. Because, yeah, I mean, versus a 6-hour live stream playing Fortnite. Well, I mean, I personally don't play video games. It's like, so that's not something that I resonate with. If you resonate with video games, fantastic. There are a lot of people who do, and there's a lot of good, there are a lot of people who like to consume content for gaming. But if that's not your thing, it's not your thing. Lewis, don't feel bad. It's easy when you have nothing to compare it to, but I'll keep it up. Looks like I'm on the right track. Is there a way to make your edits more interesting? Yes, there is a way to make your edits more interesting. But that is a hugely involved conversation that we don't have time to get into now. Met Roberto in Seattle and VidCon. He's really nice. He put out 1,000 videos. Will I be at VidCon? Yes, I will be at VidCon. If you're around, shoot me an email, support@StoryGreenlight. Well, maybe. As of right now, send an email to support@StoryGreenlight.com and let's say hi at VidCon. That'll be good. Needs more subs. I think he self-identifies as presumably Roberto. I think he self-identifies as a guy who teaches how to grow your business streams of income. Yes. I mean, Roberto is, he's into general creativity, create awesome, grow your business, grow your income. So yeah. Shane Beamer. I just started reading a book called The 80-20 Principle. That's helped me get through a lot. Yes. Holy moly. 80-20 is an enormous, impressively important thing. Okay, folks, Dafter Things says, yes, true, but YouTube are not really encouraging animators or filmmakers. Well, that depends on who you talk to. There are folks who would agree, there are folks who would disagree. There are many people like me, of course. Okay, so let's get into the content of what we're actually, of what I've actually pitched here that we're going to be talking about here, in terms of what these editing pieces of editing software are. Now, actually, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to, I was thinking about how to break these down, and the fact of the matter is, a lot of these don't have a lot of these aren't beginning pieces of software because you can actually do a lot of things. So I'm kind of like, well, let's talk about beginning in terms of like they might have entry-level functions or they might be less expensive to acquire. So that's an element that I've put some of these on the beginning list. So here's the beginning levels of things. If you're on a PC, I don't know if this still comes with it, but it did for a long time. Windows Movie Maker is it comes or used to come with Windows computers, and it's for free. Same with iMovie. If you're on the Mac, that comes with the Mac for free. And they do have a reputation for being entry-level software. But the thing is, a tool is a tool. And I happen to know that there are some YouTubers with significantly large followings. I mean, like, legit followings, that they do all their stuff on iMovie. It works. If it works, it works. So just bear that in mind. Then there are programs like Filmora, HitFilm, Sony Vegas, which all have been referenced by those of you on the stream here already. And Filmora and HitFilm have different levels of functions that you can use for different levels of pricing. Then there's also if you want to do like tutorials, if you want to record your screen, a lot of people use the programs Camtasia or ScreenFlow for PC and Mac respectively, just because they can easily record what's happening on your screen. They can record a live audio stream. They can also record any sound that comes out of your computer, which is really handy if you want to do tutorials. So that's actually, I use ScreenFlow for the videos on the YouTube channel here that show me in Premiere. I use Camtasia for that. I use ScreenFlow for that. Let me see if there are any questions about the entry-level things. You can still download Movie Maker for free, says Dapter Things. Okay, well, there it is. And Dapter Things says, I use HitFilm, which is an okay editor, but of course you get compositing as well. Which, that's one of the big selling points. Like, I went to the HitFilm website this morning, prepping for this, and first of all, it's like I have to temper my attitude with this stuff, because when someone says it's like, hey, I have a program called HitFilm, it's like, you use this, you're going to make hit films. I'm like, no, you're not. Just because you're using a program called HitFilms, no, you don't make hit films like that. You make hit films by telling stories and having all the elements of story and writing and casting and directing and production and post-production and finishing and marketing and all that stuff, and then people buy it and all that. That's what makes a hit film. But I digress. Windows is migrating, says needs more steps. I think Windows is migrating people to remote online version of Movie Maker. I don't see it here on my Win 10 PC. Okay, well, I will confess, I'm not 100% up to speed on PC because I hardly ever use it. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Mac guy. I've been using Macs ever since I was in 7th grade. So there's that. Right on cycling. iMovie is great, would have stuck to it, but you didn't need to use my more powerful desktop PC. Used Filmora, but outgrew it as the color grading is pretty bad. So, refresh my memory, Michelle. Did you move to Premiere? I think you said, well, you know, I'm not gonna scroll back up to the chat because I just want to stay focused here. I think you might have said that you moved to Premiere. So there is that. So who are they for? What do they cost? Well, these beginning level programs are very affordable. Sometimes they're free. So that's one of the elements of these guys here in the beginning level software. Then you go to your intermediate. You go to your intermediate programs, and the two main ones that I'm going to talk about here are Adobe Premiere Pro, known as Premiere for short, and Final Cut Pro. Now, the only reason that I'm calling Premiere and Final Cut intermediate is because they are not beginning level programs, but they can do pretty much anything you want them to do in terms of editorial stuff, short of high-end compositing or character like character modeling, like you need a 3D, like something like Maya for something like that. But you can do full on, you can do broadcast level, you can do surpass broadcast level with both Final Cut and with Premiere. You can do feature films that people have done, like studio release feature films on both of those platforms. And so just know that if you're using those programs, they are totally solid. I mean, there are things that people love or hate about them. Final Cut is kind of an extension of Apple's philosophy of editing, which basically doesn't use tracks, which drives professional editors like yours truly, who like I've spent my everything I've ever known is all about tracks. That's how my brain thinks, and so I've not yet found a good enough reason for me to jump into Final Cut 10 to do that, because basically anything I get paid to edit is on Avid, and anything that I do for YouTube is on Premiere, which I learned. I actually just learned Premiere myself this past fall for a remote project that I was working on, and also because I'd been using an ancient version of Final Cut, like 6.5 something, that on my laptop, that was just like they upgraded the operating system, so like the software stopped working and I had to do the upgrade. And I shed a tear for my Final Cut 6.5. But that meant that I needed to go into something that was modern, like the current version of Premiere, and I'm super glad I did. The number one thing that helped me to do that was I went to lynda.com, lynda.com, and there's a course by a gal by the name of Ashley Kennedy, who did the foundational, it was a foundational Premiere functionality course. I cannot tell you how huge that was for me just to get that solid foundation. It's like, you don't get it all in your head, like, oh, well, I know how to edit, I should be able to do all this and stuff, just jump right in. It's like, hey, do yourself the favor, talk to, get a course from someone who knows what they're talking about, can give you the shortcuts, and that will get you on your way to where you want to be faster. That's my philosophy there. So those are current thoughts on the intermediate programs, Final Cut and Adobe Premiere. Michelle says yes, Premiere. Okay, cool. Needs more subs. 100% forgive you for being a Mac guy. That's fine. I don't need forgiveness. And on it goes. Mac versus PC. There it is. There's DaVinci for free on PC also. I hear good things about it. Yes, just about to get to that. James Hillman. Howdy, James. My evolution has been Movie Maker to Vegas to HitFilm, now the free version of Resolve 15. So far, really enjoying Resolve, particularly the improved editing features. Very cool. Well, that is quite the evolution there, man. Very cool. Big G Media. HitFilm's name is ridiculous, but the composite is awesome. Has most of the functionality of a higher-end editor. Very cool. Good to know. Very cool. Trip Smith. I've been through Movie Maker, then Vegas, then Corel. Now I'm trying HitFilm, but it doesn't do everything easily. Wish I put something with the basic and had something with the basic and easy voiceover and text input. I don't know, man. If you are, I don't know what you're referring to with Corel in terms of the editing. But if you've done Movie Maker, then Vegas, to me it would be a no-brainer to just bite the bullet and do Premiere, because as soon as you figure out the learning curve on that, which it's definitely not as difficult to do the learning curve if you do something like taking that Lynda course, like what I did. It was incredibly helpful for me. I think you'll be really happy with it. I really do. Resolve built-in compositor is great, says Big G Media. Very cool. After Things. Movie maker to Vegas to power director to hit film. I wish the audio capabilities were better. Trip says, I need to check out Resolve, I guess. All right, folks, we need to talk about Resolve. We're getting there, I promise. James says, definitely check out Resolve, and most importantly, there are a pile of YouTube how-to vids, especially if you're doing 4K, so big media. So, well, clearly, here we are. The cat is out of the bag. Here is the advanced stuff. As I mentioned earlier, the Avid media composer crowd, for the longest time, Avid came out in the early to mid 90s, and it was the only thing that would work in conjunction with all this broadcast infrastructure that everyone was doing. And so it got in really good. It made a happy home with all the broadcast industry and the filmmaking industry. And so for a while, it was the only game in town. Basically, it was the only game in town. And even to this day, people who cut on Avid are known. Avid editors have a reputation for being really, really snobby. And I will say, it's so bad, I went digging and I actually found a picture of the first Avid editor. This guy. That's how snobby editors can be with Avid. Like, I kid you not. I actually skipped over this in my notes. I saw this on a Facebook group a while back, and it said it was a Facebook group, and someone made a post about a TV station in Detroit, and this was a few years ago, about a TV station in Detroit using Final Cut Pro 10 for on-air broadcast editing. And someone in the string was talking about how there were some genuinely professional elements to what Final Cut 10 was doing. And someone, an Avid person, said, sounds like more bad FCP ideas like drag and drop mousy smart tool BS. Enough with the geeks reinventing the wheel. Editing is old school. Bins, source side, record side, in plus out equals cut. Please stop trying to teach us old dogs new tricks. The kids can be happy with their advanced iMovie. Let us pros be. Are you kidding me? Clearly, he's a descendant of this guy. Anyway, so but the fact of the matter is, the Avid crowd may not even realize that they are a dying breed. Maybe not dying, but they are far from the only game in town anymore. And it's because, mainly, of these guys. These programs right here, they have democratized post-production for everyone. You can get high-end, like at the very highest level of nonlinear editing from these guys right here. You don't have to use Avid Media Composer. Unless, I will say, the big unless, the number one reason that you would want to use Premiere is if you're editing a broadcast television show that has multiple editors working at once with the same media, and you need to have rock solid support for that. That's why broadcast television relies so heavily on Avid, because that's what it was designed to do from the very beginning, was to share media and share projects. And Premiere is getting better at that. But when it comes to broadcast stuff, it's like there's a lot of money on the line, and you have tight deadlines. You have to turn things around, and that's why you would want to know Avid. Also, if you want to become a professional editor and you want to edit in Los Angeles or New York, which are the two top concentrations of editorial talent and editorial work in the United States, if you want to be in New York or LA and get paid regularly to be an editor, you must know Avid. Aside from that, you don't have to. You just don't. Now, here is, people talk about Resolve. Now, it's made, DaVinci Resolve is owned by Blackmagic, the company Blackmagic Design. Originally, DaVinci was just, it was exclusively a color grading platform, like super, super high-end, like $100 million feature films, like agency level commercial spot color grading. That's what DaVinci has always been known for. Then, when over the last decade or so, DaVinci, which was then acquired by Blackmagic Design, they realized that the world is changing and that they better change too. So that's why they started adding editorial features into Resolve. Now, if you, just so you know, there's a difference between color correction and color grading. These guys can do both. You can do some basic color correction and basic color grading on some of these guys here, but if you want like the super high-end, like incredibly intense color grading, Resolve is the thing that you want to learn. And the cool thing is, from what I understand, I've not personally used Resolve in terms of its editing functions, but I'm hearing a lot of people, like including people here in the chat, saying that this is the kind of stuff, that's working. Especially because you can get a version of DaVinci Resolve for free. You can get access to a lot of that incredibly high-end color grading and compositing functionality for free. And I will tell you, speaking of for free, we're running out of time. I want to make sure you know. So I was talking about this. Okay, there we go. I was talking about this. And the video and the video training, the online course that I did on this, I am going to be offering that for sale to the general public. But for right now, as of like within these days here, it is all, I want to offer it to the Story Greenlight community for free. Number one is a thank you for being here, and also in exchange for offering this course for free, I ask that when you get a copy of it for free and you go through it, that you leave an online review so you can encourage other folks to experience the transformation in their own content with doing this. So if you want a copy of that, the way to do it is to go to the description below. If you've not yet downloaded the checklist, do that. You'll get an email and respond to that email asking for access to the course, and I'll make sure you get that. Depending on when you see this on the replay, it's entirely possible that the free period will end. Well, guaranteed it will end. I just don't know exactly when. So if you want to get that, if you want to have me going through every question on that checklist with my perspective and my insight and asking the questions to help you make your content everything that you want it to be, get your copy now. Now, we're running out of time because it's my lunch hour. So let's see. Let me just double check. I'm not going to be able to get to everyone's questions today because I do need to keep moving here. Corel's grape doesn't do well with NVIDIA cards, says Trip, and was causing lag. Okay, gotcha. John Tallman. Howdy, John. I liked Avid when I used Canon footage, but now I own a Sony camera and Avid doesn't support XAVCS without transcoding. That's the thing. You would not believe the transcoding process. There's like just a stack of computers in the assistant editor's bay in most TV shows that use Avid. There's just like all that they do when footage comes in, they transcode. They're just flying through footage. Jeff jokes are gold. Thank you, thank you. Big Jimmy, yeah, you can't beat Avid, solid backbone, for sure. Lewis, cannot wait, thank you so much. Trip, sounds like a very fair trade, very cool. Hey, check it out for yourself, man, see what you think. I would love to hear what you think. James, have to chime in, if you use Vegas then Resolve, 15 is an easy step. I'd offer that Resolve edit features are particularly easy and intuitive. As a total noob, even I can do it. Well, hey, well, Trip, your call then if you want to do Resolve or Premiere. Either one, you will not go wrong either way. Put it that way. Okay. And James says, so far digging the tutorial. Jeff, got my notebook out. Only way I can remember anything. Hate losing my fleeting ideas. Awesome. Sweet. Well, hey, so that's what's going on today. Time is running out here, folks. And so if this has been valuable, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit the thumbs up, and let the YouTube algorithm gods know that this is helpful, because it really does help. And in the meantime, thanks for being here. It's always cool hanging out with you guys and gals. And just remember, keep telling your stories, because you matter, your message matters, and the world needs to hear what you have to say. I will see you next time.